Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
It has been a busy month of July, going to be a busy August and September. I am speaking on July the 23rd, that's a Sunday morning, at Kansas City Oasis in Kansas City, Missouri, totally free for everybody to come out. I have the honor of being the keynote at the 30th anniversary celebration of the Robert Greene Ingersoll Museum in Dresden, New York. That's August 12th. Baja Con 2023, Sarnia, Ontario, the weekend of August 25th. And then I'm back to Wichita, Kansas. I'll be speaking there on the 17th of September. All the details and links and everything at sethandrews.com/events. And speaking of busy, I have been busy recording the audiobook of Dr. Abby Hafer's The Not-So-Intelligent Designer. As you recall, it was, I think, a month or two ago, I had Dr. Hafer back on, and we were talking about what I would do differently if I was the intelligent designer. And I'm thinking about doing a whole speech on this, like writing a visual presentation and taking it on the road, because I've got some ideas. I got some great ideas. But the book released like 2015. Well, it's been out for a while, but there was no audio version. And so I reached out to Dr. Hafer and I said, hey, would you be interested in having a narrator? I know I'm a dude and I know you're a great science communicator, but I think it'd be fun to be a part of it. And she said, absolutely. And if you're looking for some new audiobook to listen to, expect that to release sometime in the month of August. My wife peeked her head in my office recently. I'm just babbling here. And she said, you need to straighten this place up. And she didn't mean like messy. I think she laments the fact that I have so many of these little tchotchkes, just stuff. Just weird stuff that I've accumulated over the years that's on display, especially on this one shelf that I have in my office. And of course, she's thinking decor. Let's get a beautiful vase. Let's put a portrait here. And let's have some kind of an accent that hits the color off of the couch in the background. And let's make it look like an office. And I'm thinking, I want stuff like this. My Darwin bobblehead, which I have had for, I want to say, like 10 years. Somebody custom made this a long time ago. I believe they were overseas and just hand-carved the Darwin bobblehead. And I was like, well, yeah, that's the shit I want in my cabinet. I've got all kinds of stuff like that. I used to accumulate it whenever I was in radio. We'd have a studio, right? And we'd always just have stuff, just crap everywhere. But every piece of crap had a story. And it was all kind of fun, like this. I have a mug that is a skull, or is a carving or ceramic skull. It's a skull, some kind of skull, and it's encased in metal, and then there's two big ram horns coming down on each side, and the ram horns are the handles. I think R.N. Raw actually has one of these and drinks from it, like the chalice, like he puts his dark beer in, and then he seasons it with that hot sauce insanity. What's hot sauce and freaking beer? I don't know what's wrong with a man, but he drinks out of this, right? It's almost like he's drinking from the skull of a vanquished enemy. This is cool. I don't know where it came from. Is this worth something somewhere? Is it related? Is there a game or something where people drink out of the skull chalice? What else do I have? I just assembled some stuff. I have a candle of the Nazi from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, the reason I have a Nazi candle is, if you remember the finale, he opens the Ark of the Covenant, and the power of God melts his face off. This candle will melt his face off. I actually bought two so I could light one. God, this is forever ago that I bought this. That you could light one and watch the Nazi melt. Now, it took forever, and he didn't actually melt. His face didn't melt off. He kind of melts down the back, which is a design flaw. But he's got his mouth open in the screaming position. And so I did a time lapse. I don't even know where I put that video. It's in archive somewhere, probably lost forever. But the melt a Nazi candle. I mean, that's something that you have to have if you're someone like me, right? You got to have that, and you display it. And when people walk in, they're like, wow, that's amazing. Where did you get it, right? Which is what interesting decor ought to be. Something else, when I saw the ad on Facebook from Concorde Aerospace, just a gag, just something funny, but I couldn't resist. It is a Jewish space laser trigger. If you remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene, wackadoodle conspiracy theorist, believes that a conglomerate of secret Jews have been flying satellites over California using lasers to ignite wildfires so that we will become more apt to promote climate change legislation. It's all a vast conspiracy. And so somebody at Concord thought, well, let's just make it official. So there are two buttons. The one on the left says arc reactor on. It's an actual switch. On the right side, with the Jewish star on it, is a fire button. And this looks, on the back, it looks like it has actual metal leads. This is a metal piece, right? It looks like you could hook this up to something. Like you could turn on your office lights with the Jewish space laser trigger. Well, when you see something like that, you have to have one. You must own this. So now I have a Jewish space laser trigger, and I have it on display in my office. Couple more, just while I'm waiting for the switchboard to populate. I have this. I have a bronze statue of Jean-Luc Picard face palming. I don't know why I had to have this. It's Jean-Luc face palming, and it's like a big paperweight. You can just set it on stuff. You have to have that kind of thing if you're going to decorate an office. I have here, I don't know why I had to have this, because the last two films sucked, a Michael Myers mask, and this is the latest incarnation of Michael Myers. The 2018 film was actually not bad. When they picked the story up 40 years later and they did away with all of that sister plot nonsense. And so at that time, I picked up the mask and have it on display in my office. I actually put this on the grandkid the other day, and it was awesome. Little bitty munchkin man with a full-size adult Michael Myers mask on. You got it, just awesome. And I put under the cap, I posted it online. I said, this is why I'm never asked to babysit, right? That's why. By the way, do not see Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends, because they are walk out of the theater bad. Betrayal of the franchise. Jesus, who wrote those two movies? Oh. I've got the Hellraiser cube. I'm trying to remember which configuration is lament configuration. It does come apart. I always look for the mechanism, trying to figure it. Yeah, there it is. So it does come apart. Natalie doesn't know that this opens a portal to hell. I haven't really had that conversation with her, But yes, you can open a portal to hell. I have a copy of the Necronomicon from the Evil Dead movies. If you don't know what this is, just Google Evil Dead Necronomicon. It's a book supposedly bound in human flesh and inked in human blood. And if you read the incantations, you unleash the demons. I see a pattern here. Apparently, I want to unleash the evil. All my stuff unlocks the doors to evil. That's a pattern. I don't know. Oh, Switching to the forces of light. I've got a candle. This looks very sacred looking. I mean, it looks very serious. And there's Jesus on it, this sort of oil painting looking thing of Jesus on the side of the candle. But the head is not Jesus. It's Big Lebowski. It's Jeff Bridges as the Big Lebowski with a big halo. And I always thought that his character was kind of a Jesus figure in the movie. You know, the dude abides, this sort of Zen, I don't know, way of living. You know, he's come to save us all by doing as little as possible, you know. And there's a whole religion. There's an actual religion that popped up around that movie, The Big Lebowski, the Church of the Latter-day Dude, and I am an ordained dudist priest. I mean, it's an actual religion. Like, you can marry people. You can be an officiant at a wedding as a dudist. And so, you know, if you want to become an ordained minister, just go to the Church of the Latter-day Dude. But I like the sacrilege of it. There's a little bit of a heresy when someone walks in and they see any depiction of Christ, but somebody's mucked with it and done something. You know, wait a minute. That's supposed to be Jesus? Why would you desecrate Jesus? And I enjoy that just a little bit, just in case a devout believer walks in the office. It just makes me happy. Plus, I love the movie. Okay. I have babbled long enough. Let's find out what you want to talk about. Raphael at 978. Are you there?
Yes, how's it going?
I'm well, sir. What's on your mind?
I'm an immigrant to the U.S., and when we moved here, my family joined a church that was from the same community abroad. And recently, I've noticed that there's a lot of cult-like mechanisms keeping them involved in the church. Like when you leave, you're shunned by the community. And I've tried to broach these topics with my mom, but she's very defensive because she's a believer and erring on the fundamentalist side. I'm wondering if it's worth to continue those conversations or just to accept that there's not going to be any kind of changes there.
I don't like the idea of giving up on anyone. We do know the psychology behind deprogramming shows us that saying you're in a cult never works. You know, you can't fix them. All you can do is perhaps show them that, hey, you've got concerns, you see real problems, and you would love to have that discussion in good faith someday.
We do have a lot of conversations about certain topics, you know, slavery or whatever, some of these issues that they don't like to talk about. But she doesn't want to talk about it, and I do push a lot to extend these conversations. Should I let those conversations kind of go and just take the long approach to the journey, or should I keep kind of pushing?
I've done a lot of this. I'm not an expert in human psychology, but I can pretty much guarantee you that if they have an emotional connection to their belief, if it is an identity belief, if you go in and you begin to try to push that around, they are not going to respond in the way that you want them to. Reveal that you have some concerns. I wouldn't say, you know, this is bogus, you're in a cult, this is stupid, it's offensive. Even though all of that may be true, that's language that's going to put them back on their heels. You're not going to change their minds with that. But I think if you walk in and say, you know, I've been looking around at this and I've got some concerns, and I just want to kind of tell you where I'm at, in the hopes that perhaps you could help me reconcile those things. It places the burden of proof on them. They don't feel as attacked, and maybe you can have a conversation. But dude, changing them is not your problem. You want them to be free of the addiction. You want them to be sober. You want them to get their lives together. But that decision, ultimately, that's a journey they are going to have to take, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, good luck, brother. See you. It's hard, I think, when people we care about are involved, isn't it? But I remember being a devout Christian. If somebody'd come up to me and been like, well, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and you're kind of in a cult, my first thought would have been, well, you're just an agent of the devil, right? You've come to try to weaken my faith and instill doubt. And the fact that I'm being attacked by the devil proves that there is a devil. And the Lord has defeated the devil, and I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And then I would have just checked out and probably physically walked away. You know what? I'm going to pray for you. Yeah. I mean, that tactic, the confrontational tactic in the one-on-ones, I mean, come on. If you'd have come after me, in my brain, it would have validated that verse where it talks about, blessed are those who are persecuted for Jesus' sake. I'm persecuted. They're coming after me. Thank you, Jesus. I probably would have thought that, 610, Nick. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Well, I have been a part of this show for a very, very long time. This has really helped me in a lot of ways. I have been suffering from PTSD and, as we know, religious trauma all my life. And like lately, the past couple of months or so, I've just begun to hone in on exactly what it is, and I knew I was messed up because of religion. I mean, I started school in 1948. And so that puts me into a parochial school. And that was a disaster right off the bat. We had brutal child abuse was rampant. I mean, we had a nun that had to beat 2 or 3 kids a day just to feel good. Let me give you an example here. This woman would take us, I was 5.5 years old when I started school. And she would take a child, hold his hands over his head with her big mitt, and he would barely be touching the ground. She was a strong woman. And then she would smack him back and forth in the face with the other hand, crying and screaming, and drop him down on the ground again. And that was it. And that's what we witnessed day after day. And there were other nuns that, had reputations for doing the same thing. So, we called her the hanging nun.
These experiences produced in you a sense of real trauma that you carried with you for a long period of time. You mentioned PTSD, religious trauma.
Exactly. And these are new terms I'm just learning, believe it or not, because your reality contacts at that particular time, I mean, in life, your developing years are really messed up. I mean, you just don't have any. And you seem to be going down the river and floating down the stream of life with everybody else, but you're not quite there. I've been talking about it lately a little bit more to other things, but here's the point. I've been listening to your show and a few shows after, other times, other people rather. And it's been years since I've been listening to you, but it takes so long for what I've been listening to penetrate, to get in, to do its work. And it's a good thing you're doing. That's what I want to express. It's helpful. I bet there's a lot of guys out there, maybe not to the extremes that I've experienced, but at the same time, the opportunity to express it, the opportunity to hear things, because you've had a lot of good guests on your show that has verbalized what I couldn't, but I could hear it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. I mean, this is my tactic, Nick. I bring in people much smarter and more effective than me, and I let them talk, and then I take credit for the show. I mean, that's just what I do, Nick. But I know I appreciate the kind words. I myself want to recommend, I don't know if you follow Janice Selby at Divorcing Religion, but she does a lot on religious trauma syndrome. Recoveringfromreligion.org does a lot about religious trauma and, leaving the abuse, the high control religions. And you are not alone in this. And, those people, there are a lot of people, I think, who are just now becoming introduced to that concept, religious trauma. Some people have scoffed at it. What do you mean trauma? How could religion harm you? And I think this is such a monumentally dismissive and naive thing, because high control religions can scar people for the rest of their lives. You'd agree with that, right, Nick?
Well, I'm 80 years old. Yes, I will agree with that. I was born in 1942.
How long ago did you start to, go through this sea change? Because, there are a lot of people that are thinking 80, well, the die is cast, set in their ways, they'll never change. But you sound like a refutation to that claim.
No, my friend, no. No, I had an addiction. Now, I'm a little bit of an anomaly here. In 1964, I joined a program, and everybody knows what it is. I joined a program and to stay sober, and I have been sober ever since. So we're talking 58 years. At the same time, what's been going on with me is that a driving force, whatever you want to call it, some little thing, some little spark, just has never gone out, I've never let go of it, and it has never let go of me. The one thing I can say is that I stayed sober every single day, and that was my saving grace, so to speak. And at the same time, these men, they accepted me as I was, as I am. That was a very big thing in my life, and I'm still driving. I'm not going to stop. I don't want to lay down. I don't want to give up. I've been through the ringer, and I don't know what, I've been looking for things that will help me to release me, so to speak.
Well, let me
And
ask you a
the thing
question,
is-
Nick. Let me jump in and ask you a question. As you found liberation from alcoholism, you found like, the bonds were off. You were no longer a slave to that. Did you come to feel that way about your former religion? You were controlled, maybe even addicted, and yet you sort of, I don't know, you went through whatever program you needed, even if it was just watching and listening to online activists, reading, doing your own thinking. Do you feel like that was the same kind of liberation from an addiction of religion?
In a sense, I have, but the effect of the negative experiences put me in a mindset where I was grounded in fear. And that type of thing that I'm beginning to see is so overwhelming. It just stops you at every point. So the only thing I've found that is beginning to help is, yes, those programs that you've mentioned, I'm just beginning to pick some of them up, by the way. Okay. And thank you very much for your suggestions. But the other thing is, somehow I feel as though I have to put myself to the test. In other words, those things want to stop me from doing everything in my life. Anything I've wanted to learn, college, writing, music, the whole 9 yards, have always pushed me back and things like this. And the pain and the fear and what they bring on is like, who the hell do you think you are, you stupid asshole? That's it in a nutshell. And I'm still fighting that. So what I journal, I'm back into my music, and I'm meeting up with my demons.
You know what I hear, Nick? I hear you're free, or you are becoming more and more free every day. And now you are engaging with the things that resonate and give you joy, and you're doing it on your own terms, and you have made a commitment that you will no longer be controlled. And at the age of 80, I take great inspiration from that. I think it's absolutely amazing. I'm seeing a ton of love for you in the chat as the commenters are jumping in. So just know that even as you're on your journey, I think you've encouraged others in theirs.
I hope so.
You are much appreciated, and thanks for sharing your story. And as the journey continues, just keep kicking, okay?
Thank you very much, Seth, and I will keep listening. Thank you so much.
The heathenry and shenanigans continue after this short break. Hang on. My patrons get the broadcast early and commercial free, and I so appreciate your support at patreon.com/Seth Andrews. Karen at 404, thanks for waiting on me. Are you there?
Good afternoon, Seth. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for calling. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I myself am an atheist, although I was baptized in my youth. And that's what I tell my family, who is staunchly Christian and worried about me. I tell them, well, I was baptized. But recently they've come up with something that I'm not sure where they're coming from. Are all Christians this way or just them? They don't want me cremated. Me and my husband have both decided that's the way to go. We don't want to take up part of the earth for a useless reason. But they think that is against the body, against Christ. We can't be raptured or something. And my point is, didn't he supposedly make Adam out of clay and dust and Eve from a rib? And what about people who are exploded in Vietnam or in war somewhere? Can they not be raptured? What is your take on this position?
Oh, I just love the fact that you called, because I wrote a whole chapter about this in my book, Christianity Made Me Talk Like an Idiot. Just a few points. My mother was upset when my grandmother passed away, because they had not pointed her casket at the open casket. They had not pointed it where she was facing, to the east. And the reason is because they draw this verse out of the Bible, where as Christ comes from the east. And so if you go through Christian cemeteries, you will actually see there is a tradition that people who are Christians are buried facing east. And it's this weird thing that people lose their minds over. But in that chapter, I'm like, well, okay, hang on. East relative to where? Like, is Christ going to return east of Tulsa or west or whatever of Tulsa, Oklahoma? I mean, wouldn't he go back to Jerusalem? And yeah, what about people who have already died and their particles, the atoms, have been incorporated into other things? How will they be reconstituted? What about people who died in thermonuclear war? What about people who, have if they lost a limb, do the limbs crawl over to the body and then reattach and they go up to meet Jesus logistically? The idea of Christ's second coming and the resurrection of the saints, it's just fascinating because it creates so many logistical problems. And you have raised awareness again of how it's all just crazy.
Well, thank you very much. I just wish I knew how to reassure them that it will be okay.
Is it the Mormon church that doesn't want you cremated because they want to baptize you in the afterlife? There's a ceremonial baptism of the dead. And I think it's for that reason that the Mormon church discourages cremation, because apparently they think it's, it would be in theory more difficult to baptize your ashes. I don't know, if you are an ex-Mormon, please contact me and correct whatever misconceptions I've got. But isn't it interesting, the stuff that people get in a twist over? Right? Jesus comes back and you're cremated. How is he going to resurrect you? And I'm like, well, wait a minute. This opens Pandora's box. You've drawn some attention to it. Thanks, Karen, for calling.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your work.
Take care of yourself. Okay, as Karen was talking here, I took the liberty of typing into a Google search, how does Jesus resurrect cremated? I just put those words in. And lo and behold, right here at the top of my search, Billy Graham's website, the late Billy Graham, the evangelist, the website, the ministry continues, and they have a whole article here titled, When a Christian Dies, Is It All Right to Cremate the Body? And I'm just reading this cold here. The first part says, the Bible does not give specific directions for the disposal of the body following death. Looks like they are listing various practices for internment. Or the Hebrews did not normally cremate. Later Babylonians burned their dead and deposited their ashes in funerary urns. Third paragraph, Christians will want to show respect for the body, even though the essential person or spirit has moved on to an eternal destiny. The body is the tangible reminder of all that person meant to us. In addition, the body is destined for resurrection, transformation, and reunion with the spirit at Christ's return. Okay, now we're cooking. Quote, at the resurrection, it will not make any difference whether a person's body has been buried or cremated. God knows how to raise the body. And that's it. And it goes on, there's a couple sentences about how our next body is going to be awesome, will be eternal, spiritual, etc. But beyond God will do it because he knows how to do it, I don't see any explanation. Like, they don't get into any of it. How disappointing. But I think it's a reflection on this sort of blinking away any logistical challenges because hashtag God will do it. What's our next body going to look like? Let's say I'm a believer. Do I glow? Like, do I have a golden light about me? Can I fly? I want to fly. Like, do I get to do that in heaven? Will I have skin? Will I feel sensation on that skin? Will I have the ability to do whatever I want? Like I've always wanted to learn to play Spanish guitar. Will I have that ability in heaven? I've dreamed of being able to draw and paint. I can't do either of those things. In heaven, will I have that ability? What about sex? Will there be sexual activity in heaven, right? Godly sex. It'll be godly sex, probably the missionary position, whatever. But will there be sex in heaven? I have questions. I mean, I guess in that case, I can see the need to reconstitute a physical body because, How does a ghost have sex? Unless, of course, you are the Holy Spirit impregnating the Virgin Mary in the New Testament. I guess that is ghost sex. I don't know, so many questions. This whole reason thing is such a pain in the ass. I've got 936. Hi, who's this?
Hi, this is Bear.
Bear, thanks for calling. What do you want to talk about?
I just wanted to take a moment to commiserate with you about our very religious mothers.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's tell me your troubles.
Well, most recently, I'll work backwards chronologically. My mother has moved back to the state that I currently live in. And then she messaged a group chat of me and my sisters asking if we wanted to go to a church service with her because she's looking for a new church home in the state that I live in. But she knows I'm an atheist. And my two sisters, they haven't really been going to church either. So I'm not really sure what she's trying to get at.
She wants you to attend.
Yes.
And you don't want to go.
Correct.
Okay. You just answered your own question. Thank you for the invitation. I'm going to politely decline. Have a nice day. Do you feel obligated to go?
Not really. I don't understand why she's asking.
I mean, it could be a number of things. It could be naive sincerity. It could be maneuvering, passive aggression. You know, maybe she's tricking you into church. Maybe she's lonely. I mean, you know, I can't read her mind. I myself have become kind of suspicious about those types of requests. I think I've told the story about when my father passed away and my devout evangelical mother, who has just been pawing at me for a decade and a half. Her request for my participation in his funeral service was for me to stand on the platform and play two of his favorite hymns, deeply religious songs from the old classic hymnals. And I don't remember what the songs were, but I mean, they're overtly Jesus and God and Christianity and Bible. And my father, despite his profound hearing loss, did have a couple of hymns that he enjoyed back from earlier in his life when he could hear. And Mom's like, oh, Seth plays the piano. I sure would like him to take the stage and play his father's favorite hymns to Jesus. And knowing the context, knowing the history, did I think, oh, she's naively sincere? I did not. I thought, this is a trick. She wants her atheist activist son on record, on stage, playing Jesus songs before the entire auditorium. And I said, thank you, no.
Yeah, I think I remember you telling that story on a previous episode.
Maybe I did. Maybe I've already sort of opened that particular can of worms. Maybe I air too much dirty laundry. I just think it's so interesting. Like, you want to believe. If it makes you happy, knock yourself out. If it serves some need in you and it, whatever, knock yourself out. I'm not banging on her door, anybody else's door, saying, stop believing in God. My issue isn't with people who just want to believe something. It's when those beliefs ripple out to have a net negative effect on the rest of us, which is an alarming amount of the time. In your case, she can ask. You can say no. If she pressures you, you say, you don't get to pressure me, and you get on with your day.
Okay. There's one other thing I wanted to mention real quick.
Yeah.
My mother is also actually a published author, and I am dedicated in the book that she has written, but I haven't read it yet. And her book was published by the publishing branch of Trinity Broadcasting Network.
What'd she say about you in the book? I mean, you haven't read the book, but you certainly know what the dedication says, right?
It's a short general dedication just to me and my sisters, honestly.
Oh, okay. So it's not a book that says, I am writing this in the hopes of reaching my prodigal son.
I'm not sure if she would even want to necessarily admit that in the dedication of the book.
Are you going to read the book?
I'm not sure if I am, which all the book is a retelling of the book of Job from the wife's perspective.
I would like to legitimately know what Job's wife was thinking when God totally screwed up her husband's entire existence and killed his children. And I'd like to know what Job's wife was thinking, but I kind of doubt your mom has an objective opinion or perspective about that.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I haven't read it yet either.
Thanks for calling. Take care of yourself.
You too, Seth.
Yeah, see you. Job's wife was also murdered by God, Jacques said in the comments. Is that true? I hadn't remembered that. Okay, we got to go back to Google here real fast because I want to make sure I'm giving you accurate information. God killed Job's family? Oh, look, it's an apologetics website. This ought to be fun. I always enjoy the apologists trying to explain why the story of massacring human beings is a demonstration of God's goodness. That's always fun. This one is from Honest Talk with God. The death of Job's children. Job had 10 children. When Satan challenged God's assertion of Job's righteousness, he asked God for permission to harm Job's loved ones and take Job's possessions. God acquiesced, and Satan used human conflict and natural disaster to destroy all that Job had and kill all whom Job loved, save his wife. According to this blogger, the wife survived. I guess I could go read the book of Job, but I find this more interesting. Okay, so for some reason, God felt like he cared what Satan thought, and he decided to make Job an example of how if I muck up Job's life, he's still going to love me. I'm scrolling down here. Oh, look, we pinball directly to the New Testament, Matthew chapter 6, which says, "Do not worry about your life or your body. Are you not of more value than the birds of the air, and God cares about them?" Jesus clearly states that God loves us and values us and provides for us. Scrolling down, context. Oh, check the first sentence in this paragraph. Death is not always the worst thing to happen to someone. We don't see the Job story from the perspective of Job's children. Their view is never considered from their vantage point. Maybe something is gained by their deaths. I don't know. I look into the New Testament and see Stephen willingly face death for the sake of the gospel. Oh. Maybe the children, before they were massacred, looked up to heaven and said, "Yes, God, please massacre me so that I may demonstrate your love and goodness beyond myself. After all, am I not worth more than the birds of the air?" Ah, what a lovely God. Now bring the horrible death that thou hast planned for me. I submit to your #goodness. What a beautiful story. 508. Hi, who's this?
Hi, Seth. It's Crafty or Grant, whatever you prefer to call me.
Grant works for me. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about?
I have this is a skeptical, not so skeptical atheism call. I know the two are separate, but I have an atheist friend who still believes in an afterlife, even going so far because he's a big fan of ghost movies and horror stories, just like me. And he goes forth with buying an app for his iPad and carting it around and posting videos on YouTube. He has a YouTube channel where he walks people through talking through his Spirit Box app on his iPad. And I was wondering what your 2 cents were on the whole discussion we had, where it was basically, I pointed out how this is a very religious idea. This is the idea that the soul goes on, that there even is a soul, and that it goes on to an afterlife. And you're able to tap into it with a $10 app that doesn't even work the same way as the traditional, quote-unquote, Spirit Box, which is just a radio transceiver that picks up different kinds of static and radio waves, the whole EVP shtick. And he credulously bought that. I even told him, "Hey, are you a medium?" He's like, no, I'm not. I don't have any powers. I don't believe I actually have any psychic abilities. All right, well, you know about shyster mediums who have been caught in the act, famous ones, thanks to James Randi, for example. And he just could not handle the question of, hey, how do you tell the difference between the shyster mediums and the real ones, which you assume exist? And he just couldn't answer that.
He probably just wants to believe. I get that. I mean, I understand the desire to believe that we continue on. There's kind of a mystery to it. There's a magic to it, perhaps. I'm interested in this app. $10 turns your phone into a spirit box, or your iPad into a spirit box. I may have to look that up. I'm not going to pay for it, but I'd like to know what it is.
No, but I pointed out to him, too. It's software. Somebody wrote that. And he says, yeah, but I mean, it works. Like, how do you know it works? Well, look, I speak into it, and it starts to say words back at me. It's like, there's voice recognition software that exists. There's voice replication software, text-to-speech, that exists. And it's easy enough to write an algorithm that links the two together and sell it for $10 on your app. He's like, yeah, but it's not a problem. I'm like, you literally spent money you could have spent feeding your child on an app that buys into this notion that it is possible to be a spirit medium, let alone have an app that takes care of it for you. And then he shops it around. He goes out and meets people in public, random people, and does the whole medium shtick. He's like, yeah, but I don't ask him for money. I'm not doing it for profit. I'm just doing it so they can talk to their loved ones. Like, how do you know they're actually talking to their loved ones? How do you know you're not giving them bad advice? It's like, yeah, I can't. I'm not intending to give them bad advice. Therefore, I can't be giving them bad advice. Oh, sure, because nobody can do any harm without intent.
Yeah, no one who's ever been sincere has ever done any harm, right, Grant?
Yeah.
I'll have to look this up on my phone. I'm now insanely curious about the online app-driven spirit detection industry. But it sounds like your friend just wants to believe. That's going to be a tough row. But you're right to be skeptical, and you're right to encourage skepticism around him. I myself would continue asking the questions, how do you know? And who knows, maybe he'll start to ask himself somewhere down the road.
He has. Thankfully, he has started questioning that and being more skeptical to the point where he's stopped posting to that YouTube channel and just has another YouTube channel entirely for family videos and geocaching fun.
I've geocached. I don't know. I found it a lot of fun, and there were no ghosts involved, and I totally buy that. Grant, I appreciate you. Good luck with your friend, and I'm going to go search for some spirit boxes, okay?
Thank you, Seth. Keep up the great work.
See you later. As he was speaking, I hope it wasn't rude, but I opened up my iPhone App Store, Spirit Box. There's a whole industry for this. Ghost Science M3. There is Ghost Tube, the SLS camera for paranormal investigators with night vision. Ghost Tube SLS camera detects humanoid bodies in your environment, similar to the way in which the Kinect SLS camera works, used by real paranormal investigators. There's another ghost detector, ghost hunting, ghost observer, ghost talker. Find ghosts, ask questions, and take a shot of the ghost. Share with friends. Find a ghost nearby using a built-in radar app. Communicate without typing anything. The app will ask questions for you. Paranormal EMF. Oh, yeah. An essential free tool for people with an interest in paranormal investigation. Real measurements using the magnetometer. Sorry, I'm fascinated by this. Interesting that these apps exist, and yet no one has won a Nobel Prize for proving the existence of ghosts. Speaking of ghosts, coming up, I believe, next month, I'm going to be speaking with full-time paranormal investigator. His name is Kenny Biddle, does a lot of work with Skeptical Inquirer, and he goes out to ghost houses, and he stays the night, and he uses the equipment, and he takes the equipment apart. Like all the people are saying, this measures a ghost, and he grabs the equipment, he dissects it, takes it apart, reverse engineers it, and he's got some great stories. So if you like debunking ghosts or at least examining ghostly claims, Kenny Biddle's going to join me here in a few weeks, and he is going to be big fun. Okay, this is probably a mistake, but I'm going to download one of these here. Sono X10 Spirit Box. Age appropriate, 17 plus. It's free. This is probably one of those deals where it's free until it's not. Like, we'll give you the free app if you want to talk to the low tier riffraff ghosts. If you want the premium ghosts, that's going to cost you. Okay. It downloads quickly. Opening the app, it looks like a scanner. Sensor signal. Okay. For those who aren't familiar with the Spirit Box, it scans or ostensibly scans radio frequencies. It grabs a piece of audio from that frequency and then it moves on to the next one. And you're supposed to be able to hear patterns as the ghosts speak to you. So let's ask it a question. How did you die? I have no idea, which is probably the point, right? Pattern seekers will insert meaning here or connect vowels and consonants here. And I was kind of an anticlimax. I'm sorry, my friends. I'm not going to download any more. Actually, even this damn app looks like it's nothing but ads. Add here and add there. Upgrade to premium. No, I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to wish you a wonderful week. And we're going to talk about all this in much more detail with Kenny Biddle, paranormal investigator, coming up in the month of August. I'll catch you back here next time. We'll see you soon.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming free thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.